Welcome to Rodas Live. I'm your host, Rodas. Today I have a very special guest from the West Coast. I consider this guy a brother, a friend, and a professional. Please introduce yourself to the listeners of Rodas Live.
Good evening, motherfuckers and motherfuckers. My name is Uncle Dolemite, comedian, father, host of the Too Much Game podcast. A lot of y'all probably already know.
That's what's So, what's the most unexpected place you ever got comedic inspiration from? And tell me how it turned into a routine joke.
I think Instagram Live, honestly, is not really unexpected, but Instagram Live is where I get like 90% of my material. Like, I don't know. When I be talking to y'all on live, that's when it all come to me. I think the most expected place where you get inspiration is the toilet. But nah, usually Instagram Live is where I get all my good stuff.
Okay, that's what's popping. So, when did you realize you had the talent for making people laugh?
When I was a little kid, like I always made my younger siblings laugh, like our whole life. They always thought I was hilarious. And then, like family members, grandparents, and all that. Like I've always made people laugh. But as far as being a comedian, I ain't really know that I could seriously do it until comedians started saying it.
Okay. So how has your style of comedy evolved since you stepped on a professional stage with the jokes?
I think honestly, just getting more comfortable because like stylistic wise, I think I'm pretty much the same. Like I had a vision for what I wanted for myself to sound like. So, since I've not been doing this super long, it's kind of like the same. I think I'm getting better at delivering my jokes, but as far as like stylistically, it's the same. I think the only thing that's changing style wise is I'm getting better. Like I went to New York in the beginning of June to go talk to my homeboy JP Justice. Shout out JP Justice. And JP just helped me work out like the little kinks in what I do, how I engage the crowd, how I, deliver to the crowd, how I look forward because I pace. Y'all been on Instagram live with me. I walk 2 miles in the sense of a live. I do the same thing on stage. I will walk a whole mile back and forth on the stage if you let me. So just the
Hmm.
way that I do that, I think that's the thing that's changed more than anything. Like just how I address the crowd.
Okay. So, how has your background or upbringing influenced your comedy?
Um, I think probably the same as like any other comedian. Like just the life that we all live is where we draw inspiration for our sense of humor. Whether it be us having a hard life or, us having funny family members or funny friends, like I come from a family of people who crack jokes. Like my mom is real funny. My dad is funny when he wants to be. And then, all my cousins just, you know, living in Compton, we be roasting. We crack jokes on each other. So being that I come from a background like that, it's like I can't help but to have the ability to crack on people and, make people laugh.
That's what's up. So, how did you how do you get inspired regularly for new material?
New material 99 times out of 100. Like now that I've made the decision to take comedy serious, I just pay a lot more attention to everything around me.
Hmm.
Like, there was a time where, like I would tell people, I don't care about 90% of what's happening in the world. Like I keep focused on the things that are important to me and me alone, like, my kids, my family, work, how I make my money, my podcast. But now it's like, okay, now let me watch the news a little bit. let me check these blogs out. Like, let me pay a little bit more attention to what's going on in the world so I could, have my take on things because I understand that people want to hear what a comedian or, even us as content creators, people care about our opinion. So, now I'm paying attention to everything.
Okay. So how long does it actually take, like from the idea to routine, like far as jokes go? What is
Um, I,
that what is that stretch like?
I think for me, it's instant. Like, once I see something that inspires me, if it don't come to something funny, I leave it alone. Like
Right.
I don't like to allow what I do to become too strenuous. So like if something happens, like on the news, like when Trump got shot, like funny, like all type of funny ideas came to my head. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna be using this on stage. Or when something else funny happens, if it's not something that my mind immediately says, okay, I got jokes for this, then I'm not gonna force it because
Right.
you can tell when somebody's trying to force the funny out of something when they saw something happen in the world or something happen to them and they're trying to figure out a way to make it funny. It's very rarely funny.
Right. So being an artist, and we're not talking about me. Now, mentally, I'm always prepared to get on the stage. But is it by you doing shows and going on the stage, do you get that funny feeling every time you go on stage? Like,
100%. Every single time. I've never not had some level of nervousness when I go on the stage. Like, I'm a lot more comfortable than I was when I first started because at first it would be like almost like crippling fear, like like paralytic. Like it would paralyze me. Like now, like I'm a lot more comfortable, but I still have like that like, just the pressure of hoping that these people laugh. Because of course, I get on the stage to do a job, and the job is to make people laugh. So my hopes is these jokes are landing because it's like a boxing match. Like what your fist gonna do, but it's
Mhm.
all about what they do to him and what he does back that
Right.
matters.
Speaking of the hit back, Dolomite, how do you handle the hecklers during a performance? Do you embrace it and give it back? Like take it as fuel. How do you embrace the hecklers during a performance?
Yeah, I embrace it. Like I enjoy it honestly. Like, cause when somebody yells back, that I feel like they make my job easier. Because like to me as a comedian, you know, the hardest part of comedy is creating jokes out of thin air. Like when you
Hmm.
got to set the joke up and deliver the joke, you got to make it up. But if it's somebody in the crowd talking, I can just bounce funny shit off of whatever they say. So if you try to roast me, I'm gonna roast you back. If you want to participate, I'm going, I'm gonna go off of whatever you say. Like, if you make a point, you make a counterpoint, you want to disagree, we can have a funny debate while I'm on the stage. Like I got the microphone, so of course I'm gonna be the louder one, but I'm gonna let you get what you got off just so I could bounce off what you say. Like, the last big show I did, shit, I had to shout the heckler out. Like, thank you. You made this the best show I've never done.
Right. Okay. I want to ask you this: how is humor a part of essential everyday life? And what part do you think humor plays in relationships? The
Laugh.
connection.
Yeah, as much of a cliche as it is, and cliches are cliche for a reason because these are universal truths. Like, laughter is medicinal. Like, you gotta laugh, especially like when it comes to things not going your way. Like it just makes life easier and less stressful when you can make a joke out of everything. Like, not to the point where you don't take stuff serious, but like even in knowing that you gotta take stuff serious, you can still get a quick laugh in out of it. Like, most of us who are in comedy, we take our humor from pain. So when it comes to relationships and just life in general, the ability to turn something bad into something funny, it's essential.
Okay. So when you look back at your career, what moment stands out as a turning point in a comedy? Can you say it's the New York trip?
Yeah, the last show at the I-9 Lounge in the Bronx was I think it was like that moment when I was like, I could do this shit for real. Like I'm good at this shit. Because like since I started, I've been kind of spoiled. Like I haven't bombed, I haven't had no bad sets, I haven't had no hecklers I couldn't handle. Like, a lot of people who've been in comedy, they stories are a lot different than mine. Like they like, oh man, I bombed a few times, I had some really bad shows, I forgot my material, it went really bad. Ever since I've been doing it, it's been damn near easy every time. I had one show in Queens on a Thursday night, and that shit didn't go all that great. It wasn't
Right.
bad, but it for damn show. It was a tough room, like super tough crowd. They did not want comedy there. So it was a hard night. And then, like I said, JP Justice, he, just gave me some tools. Like, look, you can't approach it like it's a job. You gotta approach it like it's a conversation. So if these people ain't paying attention, you gotta get their attention as opposed to you just getting up there delivering your jokes and getting off stage. Because that's what I did. It was like, well, these people ain't paying attention. I'm just gonna I'm gonna do my material and I'm gonna get on. Three or four people is paying attention and laughing. I'm gonna make them three or four people laugh and I'm gonna get on. So he was like, nah, man, like you should be trying to get the whole room. You should be trying to get everybody attention. So that next night, I went and I did everything that he told me to. Like I got the room's attention. Like there was times I had to do some yelling. There was times I had to get off stage and address certain people individually. I had to roast a couple of people. But by the time I got into my material, I had the whole room's undivided attention and I killed it in there. So I was like, okay, it ain't really nothing I can't do in comedy. So it was at that point at I-9 Lounge, this had to be like June 7th of this year. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna start taking this serious. I'm good at this.
So can is it safe to say that your performance at the pit helped you for the New York trip?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like the podcast pit is literally the moment that I knew that I could at least try comedy. Because podcast pit, shout out to Shantanet, the comedian out of LA. She was the host. And like after I had did, I was supposedly doing too much game. It was supposed to be a live podcast, but I got drunk and forgot a lot of my notes. So I just started telling jokes up there. So her and her husband at the time, Demetrius Juice Decent, shout out to Juice, that was like, you should try comedy. It's like you got natural timing, you got a good delivery. So I was like, y'all think I could do comedy? They was like, yeah. Because people been telling me my whole life, but it hit different when professionals tell you that you could do something. Like, your
Right.
family, they always gonna be telling you, oh man, you so funny. You could be a comedian. You are funniest cousin. Or you the funniest brother, or you are funniest friend. But it's different when somebody who does that for a living tells you that you can do it.
Right. So I did get a chance to check out a couple of episodes of Cat versus Dog, and the chemistry that you and the co-host had, it was pretty dope, and she was pretty funny too. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, man, like what happened to this show? But
Timing.
I know time, and
Yeah.
as a comedian yourself, you can understand her schedule more now, right? You're more
Yeah, cause
empathetic, right?
yeah, cause she's a comedian herself. Matter of fact, she's in New York right now as we speak, doing comedy. So like a whole lot of what broke the show up was really just, things going on in our life. Her comedy career was taking off. My marriage was going her comedy career was going up, my marriage was going down. So it was like we was in two different directions. And I live in the Inland Empire, she live in LA. So just like trying to, get ourselves
Right.
together to do 1 hour every week, it just was becoming too much of a struggle for each of us to take care of. So we kind of was like, man, I'll see you when I see you. Like, good luck. But
Right.
until we could figure out a way to get ourselves together, we just had to let it go. Like, I do want to get her on the show a couple of times because, like, we I could honestly say, like, I feel like Cat versus Dog was one of the dopest podcasts out there, like excluding nothing. Like,
I
but
agree.
it just was so hard for us to get together to do it all the time. Like we had to let it go. But I feel like especially now that me and her are both, comedians working, I feel like it'll be like that much better if we could, figure out a way for us to get together on a regular basis.
Y'all definitely can utilize being networking assets for each other, you know?
Yeah, because we know a lot of the same people. Like a whole lot of the people that I'm running into, they already know her. Certain, they've already seen the show. So, when we finally link back up, it's gonna be dope.
Can you share a memorable moment from your comedy career that made you smile?
All of it, honestly. But like in reality, I think like the most surreal moment, like where I smile every time I think about it, was I did comedy in Harlem my second night in New York, and I ran out of material. Like it was like a situation where JP was telling me before I came out there, like once you got 10 minutes of material, come to New York, I'm gonna get your shit tight. You gonna be good, dog. So I was like, all
Mhm.
right, for sure. So I'm like, I got 10 comfortable minutes. I do comedy in Harlem and I kind of rush my time. Mind you, I think he said you could do 12 or 13 minutes. I'm like 12 or 13. That's number one, that's more material than I have. And number two, because of how the crowd was, and I wasn't expecting for it to go so well. So I was kind of like not rushing my jokes, but like running through my jokes. Like it was like boom, 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 boom. Because
Right.
the
You ain't
laughs was
you ain't
coming
let
so
it come to
easy.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't even setting them up. I would just, halfway set the joke up and then they would get it so fast, it would be like bah, 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 bah. So I run out of material. I'm like maybe 9 minutes in. And like one thing that I know that nobody ever had to tell me was like once you run out of material, don't force it. Like, don't go up there and try to make up something off the top because you don't want to go from killing to bombing because you just up there like three guys walk into a bar. So
Right.
I run out of material and I'm like trying to get the attention of the host. Like, all right, y'all, that's my time. Come get me.
Mhm.
The reaction of the crowd was like, oh.
Mhm.
And I'm like, damn, what y'all was sad to see me go? And then it was like they erupted, like cheering, like, come on, keep on going. I'm like, damn, like I ain't know y'all like me that much. Like, I just was up here getting some jokes off, but y'all act like y'all really wanted for me to continue. Like, that was
Right.
dope. Cause, it was like New York don't owe me nothing. Like they don't have to like me. That's not my hometown. Them ain't my homeboys. Like they a bunch of strangers, and they was showing like genuine love. So
That
that was a trip.
that's how you know you good. So, what's your memorable era of comedy? What's your most memorable era of comedy? Like the 80s, the 70s, the 90s, 2000s, 2010s. I know I'm Egyptian old. I'm Egyptian old on here. So you ain't got you ain't gotta go that far back.
Um, the '90s. Yeah, the '90s. It got to be the '90s because even though Chappelle is my favorite, like the 2000s to 2010, like Chappelle Show era and all of that, like the '90s is like Def Comedy Jam, Comic View, Martin,
The
Fresh Prince.
Wayans,
Yeah, like In Living Color, the Wayans brothers, Malcolm and Eddie, like the
Jim
'90s, dog.
Carrey. Yeah.
Yeah, like, yeah. Ace Ventura and all that. Yeah, like Jim Carrey was killing the '90s. The Wayans brothers was killing the '90s. Martin was killing the '90s. Of course, like I said, Def Comedy Jam. Most
Hmm.
of the comedians that we consider to be legendary, the household names that we all know all came through Def Comedy Jam, like, by far. And like even Comic View. A lot of people don't mention BET Comic View, but like a lot of my favorite comedians, Comic View. So yeah, the,
Yeah.
the '90s, like by far.
Yeah, I agree with you. So who one of your favorite comedians that most people don't know about? Like for me, it's Lavelle Crawford. He's funny.
Yeah, Lavelle Crawford is one of the funniest people I ever seen in front of a microphone. Like I feel like Lavelle Crawford probably one of the most underrated comics of all times. Like he don't get his flowers. Like for as much as like Patrice O'Neal is one of those other ones, I feel like everybody who knows comedy gives Patrice his flowers. So I
Right.
can't even really say he underrated no more because he might not have reached the level of fame that he should have. But in the culture, like everybody knows who Patrice O'Neal is. But
Right.
like Lavelle Crawford, it ain't a lot of niggas funnier than Lavelle Crawford, period.
No, they not. Like I can't take him.
Yeah, like I damn near gotta like agree with you on Lavelle because like of course like Ryan Davis, who's hilarious, but like he's still practically new. So he ain't got his time yet of being, oh man, y'all don't know about this guy. Like, there's gonna come a time he's gonna be a household name. But shit, Tony Baker out of Chicago. Tony Baker is hilarious. But again, he's another one of those, like, he's still on his way up. So,
Hmm.
when we want to talk about like legendary comedians, like my favorite comedians that's not like household names is like TK Kirkland, um, Corey Holcomb, another Chicago native.
Hmm.
Like y'all, Chicago, y'all got some cold comedians out there. Like a lot of the funniest dudes out there is from Chicago. Bernie from Chicago. But
Hmm.
yeah, as far as like people who people don't know, Corey, TK, um, I shit, JP Justice, my homeboy. Like JP Justice is hilarious on stage.
Yeah, I
Like
agree.
it's a trip to watch it in person. Dude, a killer. Now that he's back doing comedy as opposed to like setting up shows and being just a teacher, like watching him on stage is dope.
Right. So, how has JP Justice helped your comedy career? Um, More than from like an executive standpoint, like, saying go here, go there, or whatever.
He like Mr. Miyagi, dog. Like,
Okay.
um, uh, I've always been like funny, but like he was the one who like showed me like the nuances of being a comedian, like how to approach the game of comedy, how to approach the stage, how to approach, engaging with an audience and all of that. Because
Right.
like I kind of, like I said, like I was kind of like lucky in the fact that I came into comedy knowing how to do it already. Like I know how to write jokes. I know how to structure jokes. I know how to, you know, deliver a punchline. I got good timing. Like I already got all of those tools, but it's like those little intangible things that he was telling me, like, move the mic stand. When you come up here, it's a conversation. It's not a job. Like, just the approach, the fact of, how to network with people and just how to interact with other comedians, like who to avoid, who to get close to. Like, he helped me tremendously. Like I feel like when I'm getting big checks, I owe him a percentage.
Right. So, how do you see comedy evolving like in the next decade?
Um, It's going to the internet. Like it's seeming like a whole lot of the money that's gonna be made in comedy is gonna be made over the internet more than on these stages. Like these promoters do not want to pay comedians for some reason. Like, a lot of these places are not paying comedians what they worth. And it's getting to the point where it don't even make sense to try to be a classic stand-up comedian as we're all known, where these dudes on the internet is making millions of dollars and they ain't touching no stage. They don't have no stage presence, no skill on stage, but they kill with these little skits. So it's like,
Right,
why would I go up here and do a $200 or $300 night when I could be on the internet making, $5,000 per post?
right.
So I feel like a whole lot of comedians, instead of trying to get on that stage, they're gonna be working towards killing it on the internet, and then the stage gonna be like an afterthought. Like that's gonna be like something that you do just to say that you can do it. But I feel like a whole lot of more people gonna try to be in the content space more than on them stages.
Yeah, the internet is definitely a level playing field, you know?
Yeah,
So
because there's no gatekeepers for the internet.
no
Like
gatekeepers.
the algorithm is the gatekeeper. Like in comedy, you especially like, back in the day, you had to know somebody. Like you had to be walked into certain places. You had to have relationships or, somebody to vouch for you in certain settings so you can get on. When it comes to the internet, if people think you funny and they sharing your shit, you on.
Right. So what upcoming projects or shows can people look out for from you?
I got my podcast at all times, but I'm working on a comedy podcast. I just have to figure out who's gonna be the co-host and how I'm gonna go about doing it, what network it's gonna be on and all that. Shout out my homeboy Uncle Bob, who's also out of Chicago. That's like my comedy brother. Like that's, if you see me out, you gonna see Uncle Bob with me, the homie from Chicago. But for the most part, I got a show coming up in Ontario, California, August 2nd at Firewater Bar. Monrovia, August 8th. I'm not completely clear on where it is, but follow me on
To
social
be
media at
announced.
Uncle Dolomite. Yeah, I post everything on my Instagram story and on my page, so that's usually where you can find my shit. September 28th, I'm doing a mansion party. Like a whole lot of what I do, I just post everything on social media because it's hard to like come off the top of my head with what I'm doing because I got a very busy schedule. So
I
just follow me
got you.
on Instagram at Uncle Dolomite, and everything that I'm doing will be on there.
So what do you hope your audience take away from each performance?
Honestly, I just hope they laugh. Like, when it comes to the Too Much Game podcast, I want to give jewels. I want it to be some life changing information. I'm trying to give like, I'm trying to give you some advice that you can walk away with and use that to improve your life. When I get on stage, man, I just want you to have a good time. Like I genuinely just want people to be like, man, I was rolling. That dude is funny. I had a good time. Like, I fell out my chair laughing. I spit liquor out my nose. Like, that's all I really want on stage. Like, I just want these people to laugh. Hopefully they follow me on social media after. If anything that I want them to take from the stage, take my social media information and put it in your phone. That's what you can take from me off the stage.
Hey man, that's what's popping. So one last question. What's one piece of advice you would give aspiring comedians?
Um, if you feel like you could and should do it, but it ain't for everybody. Like comedy it's not for everybody. So it's like if you genuinely love comedy enough to do it for free, then keep in mind the fact that you'll probably be doing it for free. Like, don't get discouraged. Like just do it more because you love it than because you think that it's gonna lead to millions of dollars, movies, TV shows, and success. Like anything that you do, do it because you love it. Cause success ain't guaranteed in no field, even if you consider yourself to be talented.
Exactly. Success is a mindset, you know?
Yeah.
So leave the people with all your social media information, and if you could leave anything for the listeners of Writers Live, what would it be?
All my social medias is, Uncle Dolemite. Uncle Dolemite. That's on Instagram, X, TikTok, Yo Mama Boyfriend, but you can find it at Uncle Dolemite too. YouTube, and of course the podcast, everything is Too Much Game Podcast. TOO Much Game Podcast. And if it's anything that I could leave your listeners with, um, if it's something that you feel like you should be doing in life, then do it and take it as serious as you possibly can because you never know where it could take you.
That's what's popping. So this has been another episode of Writers Live with Uncle Dolomite. Peace.